Here we go. Welcome, Town Hall 77. Very momentous occasion, something that the team have been working on diligently behind the scenes, is the new cloning, replicate, copy, import-export framework, and ensuring that as people migrate away from other solutions, whether it's Shopify or BigCommerce or Magento or HubSpot or Business Catalyst, whatever, that they can define their own models, schemas, and then pull the data in, preserving all the IDs from either third-party systems and also, importantly, within platformOS as well. And to do that across infrastructure. So it'll be, I might start my staging sites on Google Cloud, but my production might want to get replicated over to an AWS stack. No worries. Same with Azure, vice versa, and every which way. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our amazing CTO, Maciek, who is going to take us through the site replication, cloning, copy service that he's going to demonstrate for us right now. Over to you, Maciek.
Thank you, Adam. So yes, we would like to show you how our new replication feature works. The demo takes place on our QA environment, but we are planning to deploy it to staging and production early next week. And the task is simple. We have existing site. We used our example instance for this demo. And what we would like to do is to make sure that we can create a brand new instance and copy everything from the source instance to the destination one. So it already has some data, but we'll create another contact, which is a model, just to make sure that the instance is not empty, and also to demonstrate how all the data can be migrated as well. So we created a record for Jane, and we also will create a new user account. And as you can see, we'll be able to log in to this user account. And now we would like to duplicate this instance. So in order to do this, we will create a new instance. And what's important is what Adam already said in the beginning. It doesn't matter what stack the new site will be. So for now, we will use QA environment, but in the future, it will be, when we deploy, it immediately will work for any stack. So you will be able to migrate the site from staging to production, or from production to staging, from London to Sydney, and even it will work from AWS to Google Cloud. So we created a new destination instance, and all you need to do is to go to the details of this instance and click copies, which is in the menu. I will open this site to demonstrate that it's empty initially. So this is our home screen for a brand new instance. And in the copies, you will be able to choose the source instance. Of course, in the future, we'll be able to enhance it a little bit. But for now, for demonstration, is as simple as that. And the whole process takes place. So we can see that the chosen instance is indeed the one that we wanted to copy. And after some time, in this scenario, it takes about 30 seconds. Everything will be copied to the destination. So just a few more seconds, we'll be able to hit reload. And a bit more waiting. Okay, it's done, which means that when I reload the page, it will look exactly the same, and all the data will be there as well. As you can see, the IDs are also the same, and I can even log into the user that I've created the source instance. There are some copy pasting issues in the meantime, but when I fix the login and password, voila, I am logged in as a user that was created on the source destination. And obviously this is exact copy. So from now on, if I modify one of those instances, the changes will not be reflected on the other one. So I've removed one of the records from the destination, but it's still present in the source. And if I delete another one in source, it will be still present in the destination. So those are independent from now on. And pretty much this demonstrates the whole feature. What's really cool about it is that we don't use the old import-export features internally. We are using a new enhanced versions of import-export, which we will make available publicly pretty soon. But the performance is greatly improved. So to give you some numbers, we use it for one of our major clients, and exporting over 300,000 data took like 40 seconds, and importing it took like few minutes, which is a great improvement over the current import-export feature. So yes, as part of the instance copy, what exactly happens is that we first export the whole schema of the instance. So pretty much reverse of post-CLI deploy. And what's also great about it is that all the internal parts or all the parts that we use internally in this process will be made available publicly, so you can use them just separately from the whole process. So soon you will be able to do post-CLI pull, a feature that a lot of you asked back in the day. You will be even able to do post-CLI modules pull and module name, which means that you will be able to download only the files related to particular module. So you will be able to see its content and override it in an easy way.
Unless, of course, the content was in a private folder, in which case
yes,
you won't be able
correct. to. Private files are not being downloaded, and they are invisible for the end user. That's why we also use Partner Portal to do all the deploy, because during this process, we also duplicate all the modules that are installed on the source instance. So this minimizes the chance that a destination instance actually will not work, because all the modules are copied with it, including the private files, because those private files are never exposed to the end user. So only Partner Portal knows about them. In the future, of course, we will be able to enhance the process a little bit and maybe provide a list of checkboxes so you can decide yourself which modules you want to be copied or not. But at the time, you will be responsible for making sure that the destination site actually works and all the necessary modules are being copied over to destination. But for now, we want to keep it simple, keep it as a single click operation, and the idea is that it should work in 99% of cases, well, hopefully closer to 100, but we know that it's rarely the case, so let's say 99%.
0.99. And one of the points there about the modules being part of the replication is then if it's a paid module, then the responsibility for on the new instance will also carry through any costs. So, as far as the partner ecosystem and people developing modules that then get used and making it really easy for your sub-partners or other partners to replicate or copy, the cost associated with those will be also carried through to the new instance. It'll be an individual instance, and the billing plan and any costs associated with modules will also be replicated. So time to market reduced. There's a couple of questions that come through, and I've kind of answered them in the check. But let's get your take on it. Ursh is saying, is there a way to copy without data, or select which data comes across?
Well, so if you would like to copy the site without the data, it's actually equivalent of post-CLI deploy, pretty much. So that's actually something you can do already. And the whole challenge of this is how you can migrate the site, including the data. So really, including the schema in this process was added at the last stage. It was more like a UI enhancement just to save partners extra steps and to make the whole process easier. But most important part is actually how to copy data from one instance to the other, because schema are just files which usually are kept in Git repository, and all you have to do to deploy the site without the data is post-CLI deploy. That's the idea. Of course, then you might want to configure it, the partner portal, to set some variables like constants, API keys, for example. If you want to go from staging to production, most likely you want to use live API keys and so on and so forth. But that's how it was.
And then Scott said, What did you say? Because it moves data, this would not be appropriate to move from staging to production, correct? And I've just noted there that it really depends. For example, in some cases, you're doing development on staging and you might have created a content management system or an application, a SaaS product, which is seeded with data and IDs and other bits of information that is required for the site to work on the production environment. So in that case, yeah, you would clone it across. But you're right, you would want to be careful, and the way that the copy works also requires an explicit source to destination so that you can confirm that that's really what you want to do, because moving data is a dangerous thing. You know, moving from production back to staging, of course, you want to do some tests there, and that makes sense to move it back. But from staging to production, what's that going to do to my production site? Well, that will depend on the use case, and the developer then will have control over it. Yes, so as a framework, sorry, Maciek?
Oh, go ahead.
No, you're smarter at this than me, so I'd rather listen to you than me any day.
I just wanted to explicitly repeat pretty much what you said, but it's often a client's requirement that they have existing data, like for third-party database, basically, which they want to import as part of going live process. So for example, they have a database of users or existing clients, things like this. So you might want to play around on staging, make sure that you develop the site at the same time you import all those external data. Make sure that is correct, because usually it's iterative process. You get one set of data, then client asks you to actually update it, and so on and so forth. So it's just easier to do on staging. On staging, you have also option to clean everything, like clean on the data, load it again. So in this scenario, it's very beneficial to do all the migration staging. And once everything is done, client confirms that it's what he wants, then you just push the whole site to production.
And that you may have multiple staging instances in that workflow. So if you've got your 5 developers all working on their own instance, merging code into GitHub, that then goes to a QA environment, that then goes to a UAT environment. Once user acceptance testing goes off, it pushes into staging. You might have 2 staging instances. One is muck around, do whatever you like, and the other one is post-production push, and that's where data gets imported. It's where you're cleaning something, and then you do your push. And there's a number of partners. I think Rich was demoing his importer GUI thing the other week, and he was like, oh, one of the limitations is rate limiting, and which we do deliberately to stop people from spamming the servers. But in this scenario, this is all background jobs, so he'll be able to adjust his importer and pull in any schema from anywhere, liquid views or any kind of markup, and then parse it, change it, and push it in bulk, and have those imports happen very, very fast in the background. What were I think the numbers we had on row counts was 40,000 in a second or something, Maciek? Like
yeah, a couple of 100,000, like 300,000-400,000 in 30 seconds, so it will be about quick.
Yep, and that's only getting faster. So we're talking the ability to move massive amounts of data very, very quickly in the background, and have that all scaled up without the issues of blocking you when you're doing API calls.
I haven't mentioned actually one important thing, because the importer also takes care of all the assets. So all images or attachments uploaded by users, those are moved as well. And performance is also nice. It's assets are moved in batches of 2,000 objects, and such batch takes several seconds, sometimes more, sometimes less. It depends really on the attachment and image size, but that's pretty average. So you can move a lot of things very quickly. And to answer your Ursula follow-up statement, I was just thinking you may want some data and not other. So I assume you mean the schema. The issue with this is that usually data is tightly coupled with the schema. So if you just want to copy the models, for example, but there is no corresponding model schema in the database, then it's pretty not clear what to do, what should be the format. So that's why we decided to do all in one. But of course, the export and import will be available as a separate feature. And what we will be looking at is to allow you to export the data, but not like currently, you have to export everything and that's your only choice. You will have access to all GraphQL queries to export only the data you want. So you will be able to use the same filters on users you can now, the same filters on models. So you may export only models with certain property or that belongs to certain model schemas, users which have certain property, and so on and so forth. So it will be very powerful. And of course, the import works the way that if records already exist, it will update the existing one. If it doesn't exist, it will create.
And a lot of thought's gone into the whole multi-infrastructure environment as well. So that's why it's taken a little bit longer than usual, because the issue is, well, when you have Google Cloud or Azure or AWS or our own servers in their rack space, we need consistency. We don't want to have channel partners thinking about, well, hang on, which staging, what's the staging environment infrastructure and what's this one? And so we're simplifying, and taking care of all the hard work in the background for you. So Maciek, was that question from Dean, is that what you were answering then? No static analysis? Indeed.
Yeah, so Dean asked if we will do any magical updates to the code itself. Now we will not change static links or anything like this. So of course, you should never use the direct S3 link, I would say. I mean, if you use assets, then you would probably want to go through our CDN. And for this, we have this asset URL filter. And as you didn't mention, if you use asset URL, you should be fine. And you will use the path to the file which is already on the new instance. That said, this static URL will work because the physical this file exists, but then you will have a reference to file on another instance from different instance, which is obviously not something you want, because then if you clean up all the instance, then suddenly some of the links will be broken. So that's what you should be aware of.
And for those wondering what that was all about, the idea is, should I use a static URL? What's the terminology? Relative or relative is yes, from where I am now versus
absolute.
Absolute, exactly. Absolutely right. So be relative and use the syntax that we've already got there. Asset URL. Then what else was there, Maciek? Any questions while we focused in on this? Those watching the video, please reach out to and send us an email so that we can answer any questions and get you connected with the core team around any other ideas that might help you with migration from other services. So we'd love to get your feedback there. But I think from a framework perspective, we've pretty much got everything in place.
Yeah, so what's the important consequence of all the work that we've done is that we have a bunch of improvements waiting in post-CLI until we release it to production. And as part of it, we have fixed a lot of things that have been there for ages. And we got a lot of reports that some UX is unintuitive, and it will change now. One big example is that we changed the way how we find resources in our app builder. So when you do post-CLI deploy, we'll identify all resources based on physical file path. This allowed us to do the export thing. So now when we enable post-CLI pull, you will actually have a proper files in at the same place where your existing files. The only difference is that we will make sure that the naming is correct. So the downloaded files will be up to date with naming. There won't be any defaults. So if you had unnecessary property, then the pull will just ignore it. So this would be an easy way how you can make sure that your code is up to date with namings and you don't have any deprecation warnings around this area. But also post-CLI sync will now remove the resource if the file is deleted. For now, it was ignored, and we have been deleting things only when you triggered a deploy, but now sync will actually behave like sync and not only listening to to save, so create or update. It will also listen to delete and act accordingly. So yes, this all is coming probably early next week as well. You are on mute, Adam.
I'm on mute, yeah. For those wondering, yes, I've had to do a lot of code review and QA over this last few months. So that's why I've been a little bit quiet in the background. No, I'm kidding. Big shout out to our QA team, Jacek and Hubert in particular, who have been writing lots of tests and doing lots of things so that when we do push, and we did this week, right? So I think it's already in staging and nothing broke that we know of. We haven't had anybody call out, hey, what's going on? So that's because of all the regression work that goes on behind the scenes. And thanks, Dean. You do have some work to do. You need to jump in there and just take advantage of this, because this is going to revolutionize SiteGlide and all the other CMSs that are being built on the platform. And anybody who's doing any import work in general from other legacy systems. And I've mentioned a few, like Shopify and BigCommerce and Business Catalyst, but there's also the WordPress environment and HubSpot and literally anything. Salesforce, if you're building a CRM and you have a nice schema that you've built specifically for an industry vertical, building off possibly one of the other channel partners' import module, Rich, that might even accelerate that process of importing schema, the seeded data, and all of the client-related data that goes into a solution you're building on platformOS. And then from there, land grab, add more functionality and upsell on those things. Yes, Squarespace, anything really. And with our direct S3 upload and some of the cool new features, enhancements that are coming along in that respect, which Maciek will discuss in Inner Circle probably in a few more weeks. But that's deprecating some other, can we mention it now, Maciek? I don't want to throw you under the bus.
Yeah, I mean, we may want to hold on, but
all right. Yeah, I'm not going to.
Well, we'll be able to announce it next week. We'll be testing if everything goes as we plan.
All right, we'll hold off on that little secret. But what we won't hold off on is something else. What was that we had to share, Maciek?
Anything else?
Was it this?
Oh yes, this one.
Yep. So this is the new marketing site that's about to go live. But what we particularly wanted to do was to highlight the new partner portal UI that's being built currently, and that there's a specific area, was there, Maciek, in the layout that's going to account for the new instance replication and copy?
It's probably not in this mockup yet, because we are still planning how exactly to tackle this. For sure, the API endpoint will be available along with the release, and extra documentation will be provided to how to use API endpoint for the copy, and UI will be taken care of pretty soon.
Yeah, the UI is looking gorgeous. The new partner portal is fantastic, as is the new marketing site that's coming along really well, both in desktop and mobile flavors. And we can't wait to get that out. We'll have a sneak preview probably, maybe even tomorrow, but we're just working on some animations and different things. And it's been a fantastic job being done by our UX, UI, and front-end dev team. And oh, look, there's some familiar faces in here on our People Talk About platformOS page part. And if you're not on there and would like to be, please give us a shout out. We want to keep adding all of the developers and partners that love us. And those that hate us, please, we want to hear from you too, because we would love to know how we can make you love us and what we need to do to improve. But we'll leave it at that then, I guess, Maciek, unless there's some questions that have snuck through that I haven't gotten to. Let's open it up to questions. Will we have some sort of dummy migration? Oh, Craig, great question. Actually, that's actually popped up a few times. So how do I use it? The team are working through QA right now in staging, so that when it goes into production next week, we will then also give some, well, we will give some hints and tips and tricks and documentation around the process. So yes, you will have a migration guide. It's going to be so easy though, because literally, as you saw with Maciek, he had if the migration is within platformOS already, and you're going from staging to production, or from different infrastructure stack to from Google Cloud to AWS. It's literally create a new instance that's blank and then click the copy button and it will just do everything. Create the schema, bring across all the code, all the liquid views, all the graph queries, all the mutations, all the assets, both public, private assets in terms of user uploaded images and things. Private module folders will be copied, but you won't see them. So literally a complete cloning of that site will happen in the background very quickly. For moving from external systems, oh, and there was a question. Presumably you'd lose any recently deleted DB items on the clone. Oh yeah, so I think we ignore deleted items in that copy process.
Yes.
Yeah. So anything that's deleted as a virtual delete, I will not be copied, because who wants to pay for, on the new production site, who wants to pay overages on 200,000 deleted items for that month? Of course, not the next month when they do get deleted, but no point moving deleted items. Undelete them first if you want to push them over. So anyway, the point being, single click copy from source to destination. It happens. External services, there'll be a number of partners that will be going to enhancing a layer over the top of our cloning, replication, copy, import, export functionality. And they will be working with us to provide other one-click options. I've got this Squarespace site and I need it moved there. I've got this HubSpot blog that I want to move. I've got this WordPress blog that I want to move across, and literally click a button, log into one, export the data, and then it'll push into a platformOS instance, which may be on staging that you want to then refine before you copy it again to production. So there's replicate from external third-party SaaS product into a staging environment. Make sure you do the changes you want, refine it. At least you've got the schema and the data there. And then once you need to, you can take it from staging into a UAT instance, which your client then reviews, and then copy again. So you'll export from third party, import into instance, copy to various environments right through to production. All right, hope that is clear as crystal. And the new website going up very soon, along with the new onboarding service that we'll go into later. But let's just leave it at that for now. Any final questions? All questions have been answered. There's no silly questions, so don't feel embarrassed. I know Colin sometimes says to me afterwards, "Hey, I didn't want to ask a question because I thought I might look bad, but what's HTML again?" I get that almost every time. Dreams coming true, Craig. Good. Oh, Colin was there. I didn't realize that, Cole. I didn't mean to do that, call you out like that. No, I'm just kidding. He knows I'm stirring him. Big shout out to the core team as well. We have Ignacy in the room. Thank you, Ignacy. By the way, congrats again. He's got his little baby who recently born. So being a first-time dad and working hard on all of this stuff for you guys with the API endpoints for replication and import. Great stuff. Of course, Maciek, Derek, Piotr. Thank you, everyone, to the QA team. Awesome work. Couldn't have done it without you. So I'll leave it at that. Lots of congrats to you coming through, Ignacy. That's not congrats on the importer. That's congrats to you. And we'll take the awesome and wows on the import replication feature. So thanks, everybody. Look forward to seeing you in Slack with any questions. Of course, as Maciek mentioned, this will push into production. So those watching the video after March 16th, after March, 14th, 15th, 16th, this will be in production. And in fact, if it's a month from now, you could probably look at a whole bunch of other awesome tools that certain channel partners have built on top. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Grab some cans of soup and rice and pasta if it's available in a shopping center near you. And I hope you all stay safe and yeah, toilet paper being sold out. And of course, we will be online, working remotely as ever. Thanks all. Thanks, Maciek. Great work, mate.
Thank you very much.